All right. James Heugh, welcome to the Biohacking Secrets Show.
Thank you for having me, man. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to chat with you, bro. You've got quite a story. MMA fighter turned acrobat. You live in a van, not down by the river, or maybe it is.
Not living off a steady supply of government cheese.
There's about 5% of our audience got that.
Yeah.
And now you travel all over the world performing and teaching acro yoga. Tell us a little bit of your story and your background and how you got here.
So I teach acro, not acro yoga. One of the things that I'm looking to do is almost like give the practice of acro a bigger spectrum, a broader spectrum for everyone that like feels welcome to take part in it and everything. I believe because with me, my personality, how I teach, how I train, how I perform doesn't really resemble yoga in any way. I'm much more of like an acrobat. I like to perform. I like to entertain. I like to make people feel excited. Basically, I started doing acro about 6 or 7 years ago. I got into it after being a competitive MMA fighter / kickboxer, jiu-jitsu, all that kind of stuff for 7 years. Ended my combat sport career in a neck brace. Couldn't get hit anymore. Went through a pretty deep, dark depression because of it for multiple years. But on the other side of it, I came out so much better. I'm incredibly grateful for how my life has turned out at this point. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is overcoming obstacles and injuries and all of that shit that wants to hold you back.
Yeah. Can I ask what happened that ended the MMA career? Was it a head kick?
So I had, funny enough, a bad chiropractor that as I learned more about the people practicing in my city, like chiropractic and physiotherapy, people were almost referring to this guy as like the butcher of of the city. A lot of people were like, I used to have a small problem and now it's a big problem, and now they're all seeking physiotherapy. Obviously not going to say who it is, but so I was going to him for a bad back that I kind of received from a different chiropractor, and then was going to this guy, and he's like, oh, why don't I just adjust your neck type of thing? And I'm like, can't see how that would be a problem, And he starts adjusting my neck, and then never have an issue with my neck. And then it starts turning into my neck's kinked again today. I can't move. Better go get an adjustment. And I was basically about to turn professional. I was right at the end of here. I'm going to put myself on do not disturb, so these notifications don't keep coming through. Sorry about that.
All good.
Good. Now that's not going to be an issue. So I basically was what was I?
You were basically getting punched in the face for a living, punching people in the face, dodging leg kicks, and a chiropractor took you out?
Is the one that took me out, basically. So I was getting to the point where when my neck injury was at its worst, if you talked to me on a Tuesday afternoon, you would think that I was drunk. You know what I mean? I was slurring my words. I was stumbling around. All my coordination, my strength. Guys in the gym that had no business touching me were dominating me at that point. You know what I mean? And it got to the point where I couldn't get hit. I couldn't grapple. I couldn't do anything without severe debilitating pain and in my body just falling apart on me. And I ended up, please go ahead.
Was it almost like he'd jammed up your nervous system, and the electricity between your brain and your spinal column and the rest of your nervous system wasn't flowing right? Or
what it felt like is my C1, C2 were not really connected in the right way anymore. And I would literally wake up with my head kind of turned off to the side. And when he would adjust me, I swear I would feel it swivel on top of itself. And it was I know the difference between getting your neck cracked and then something completely different. And it was at the point where it's something completely different,
Oh.
And we're even at a point where I was using my parents' medical insurance at the time, and it had run out. And he was I believe in you so much with this. I really want to see you do good. I'll start treating you for free just because I want to be a part of this progress and watching you turn professional and everything. And I'm just a kid at the time being hell yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm going in, getting my neck adjusted 5 days a week. You know what I mean? Totally dependent on it.
Mm.
And you're not making the connection as a kid being maybe this guy's the reason why my neck's falling apart. But he had a really good way of convincing me it was the fighting. And, how could you argue that at the time? Like, of course my neck's getting hurt because I'm getting kicked in the head and punched in the head and my neck cranked and like all this kind of stuff.
It's one of the challenges with so many of these industries is that there are incredible chiropractors and there are quacks, and it's hard to tell the difference. At the surface, they look the same. Do you have any words of wisdom or advice that you would give someone that's like either getting chiropractic treatment or looking to get chiropractic treatment, like what to look for and what to run from?
So like I've come to a point in my life where like if I'm going to get adjusted, it's going to be like once a month. You know what I mean? If a chiropractor's first and like only treatment advice of you is to like, oh, just come here. Or, oh, good to go. See you later.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that should almost be like the last thing that they do. There should be a lot of other things. Like they should be testing about how you're moving. They should be testing like where your restrictions are and where your muscle imbalances are.
Yeah. Where the muscles and tendons pulling things out of alignment? Where's the nervous system pulling things out of alignment? Not just the skeletal system.
Exactly. And like, I feel like that should be the first assessment and really kind of understanding how you move rather than just being like, oh, I'll take away that pain really quickly, because like taking away the pain isn't really what's fixing the problem, right? You should always be like goal oriented to the point where it's like, I'm here to resolve the issue, not to get rid of my pain. Because like when you resolve the issue, the pain goes away, but you can get rid of the pain momentarily, but not really resolve the issue. So I think having a chiropractor or any type of physical therapist who is looking to resolve the reason why you're there rather than just making you feel better is like the most important thing.
For sure. Okay. So then you got involved with Cirque du Soleil and
I did.
Started getting into Acro. Kind of tell us a little bit about that and where that fit into your journey.
Okay. So, I'm in my neck brace on my 21st birthday. I'm depressed as can be, like I basically lost the only thing in my life that was worth waking up for in the morning. Like I was to the point where I swear I stopped seeing color and like tasting food and feeling any bit of happiness. Like every thought is a negative thought, and was honestly close like to contemplating suicide a lot, because the only reason why I feel like I'm on earth is for this reason. And now that's gone. Dude, and, but then like, so 2 years after, like, I've kind of like opened up like a personal training business. I find myself pretty successful with it. Like I'm booked all day long, every day, like running my own business, not working at like a gym where they're taking commission, but like kind of paying rent and then doing my thing. For sure. And then this like one girl came in one day and is like, hey, do you want to try Acro? And I'm like, what's that? Show me. And then first day, kind of like immediately kind of good at it, because like who knew that like lifting people who aren't resisting you and punching you in the face is pretty easy, like, cause like from MMA to this, like, and kind of like start getting involved more and more in it. And then there's this like circus performing group in my city called Sky Society, who was looking for a place to train. And since we had like really high ceilings and padded floors, we leased out space to them. And one day they were like trying this trick, and I was working, but I had like some space between clients. And they're like, hey, do you mind spotting something? I'm like, what's that mean? And they're like, if this girl falls, make sure she doesn't hit the ground. And I'm like, I could do that. She eats shit, falls face first. I catch her, pull her up from the ground. And they're like, oh, you're actually pretty good at this. And I'm like, you should try a little bit more at it. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, because I'm coming from like this super hyper masculine sport where it's like, like I'm still in that place in my head, even though it's been 2 years since I've been doing it. Yeah. And I'm like running
still part of your identity.
I'm running it out of an MMA gym, the MMA gym I used to compete out of. Yeah. And so I'm still there. And like slowly but surely, they kind of keep convincing me, and I get more and more curious about it. So at nighttime, I wait till the guys leave. I close the curtain so nobody can see into the gym. I lock the door, like, they're like, okay, I can practice now. And then slowly,
the first rule of Acro Club.
It's like you do not let your MMA buddies find out that you're an Acro Club.
Tell your MMA buddies.
And so like, started to fall in love with it when I was like, I think I was 24. I like remember talking to my buddy one night about traveling, and I got like, we were drunk. And then right when I got home, I booked a one-way ticket to New Zealand and was like, I'm going to figure that out in the morning. Like, like don't think about it now, fall asleep. And in the morning, I kind of like realized I'm like, oh, I just did something where I'm gonna have to sell my business and like move away, and I'm gonna spend this whole next year traveling the world and trying to like learn Acro from people all over the world and see what I can do with it.
Nice.
And kind of like didn't really dip my toes into the water, kind of like made the full jump all at once and decided to do it. And then the rest is history, man. Like I moved to California after like my backpacking trip around the world. You know, I was gone for 8 months, and then came back, decided I couldn't live in my hometown anymore because there was nothing there for me. Went to Montreal, not going to work because it's cold. Went to Miami. It wasn't for me either. Came to Los Angeles and Santa Monica. Like there's a place called Original Muscle Beach where the like the movement or like the fitness movement like boomed in like the 1930s, right? It's
I've
like
gotten a couple workouts there.
Yeah, it's like the first place like working out became cool, you know, like everyone's seeing it on TV, everyone's seeing like all the stuff going on there. And so the place has so much history. And I went there, and like on any given Sunday, there's 200 plus people doing acro on that little patch of green grass. You know, it's like 40 by 40. It's the size of a gymnastics mat. And it's like, I fell completely in love with it. Like I've always had American citizenship just without the paperwork because my dad's American. The day I got home, I booked my passport appointment. And then the day it came in the mail, I threw like a little bit of stuff in an old crappy broken down minivan that was so rusted I could like get my key, slide it through the metal anywhere on the van I wanted to. Like if it got into an accident, it's going to explode into dust, you know? And I took what I thought I could carry on my back because I'm like, there's no way this thing's making it. Like I'm just going to get halfway. I'm going to break the VIN numbers, take the license plate, and then just go, you know, like, and it ended up making it, but I had nothing in there really. And I got to LA and I'm like, if there's anything I'm going to do, I'm going to make this dream work. Like no money, no place to live, no friends, no job, no like anything, you know?
Yeah.
And
that's brave, man.
Yeah.
Takes courage and faith.
You know, like I'm used to sleeping on the floor in hostels in Cambodia at this point, you know, like from the backpacking trip. Yeah. And I'm all in on the dream. And there's like days where I would go like 3 days, 4 days without food. I've slept on the streets because like my van broke down, had to put the only money I had into fixing it. And then like it's in the shop for 2 days and I have nowhere to go. So I'm gonna sleep on the street. And like, you know what, man, all 100% worth it.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, I'm seeing this pattern of immersion, you know, like you decided you wanted to get good at acro and you just got rid of everything and dove all in. Like where'd you go? Who'd you study with? Like what was your weekly routine like during this period of like trying to get as good as possible, as quick as possible at acro?
So like when I first got there, like money was the issue. You know what I mean? Like if I don't have any money to drive across town to get to a training space or to even like get a bag of rice to like try to get some calories in me, it was the issue. But I was turning down jobs because they're like, oh, okay, if you work here, you're gonna have to work on Sundays. And I'm like, I can't work on Sundays. The big green like jam days on Sundays. Like I'll work Saturdays every other day, just not Sunday. And they're like, it's not gonna work out then, you know? And I'm like homeless, but I'm like dressing up in a suit in my van, like walking into like Armani, trying to get a job at it, you know? Like they're like, you look great. I'm like, I'm homeless, like, but I wouldn't say it to them, but you know, like funny. So I turned down jobs just to make sure that I could train, you know, like it's the first priority. And I wasn't going to move out to Los Angeles to do something else that was going to sacrifice my goal. And so I started just like basically sitting at the green every day and lifting whoever I could, you know what I mean? Anyone that came there, I would ask if can I play with you? Can I do these things? And slowly got better.
And this is girls, guys, doesn't matter. Guys, you'd be
anyone.
Like, can I lift you? Yeah. That's the term for like doing acro with someone.
Yeah. Make a goal of like 100 people in a day. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like,
okay.
Yeah. Sit out there for 6.5 hours, nonstop, every day, all day. Hard to do when you don't have any food or calories in your system, but the passion keeps it alive. Yeah. So I met this one girl named Leslie on Instagram, and she's like really, really talented. Sent her a message. I'm like, hey, I would love to train with you one day. And she's like, okay, cool. Like, let's meet in a park. Met her in a park, had like a great first training session and everything. She basically like after like the first training session, like we're meeting up at the second, she's like, hey, I have this like opportunity. It's not really a big deal, but you might be interested in it. And I'm like, okay, cool. What is it? Tell me. And she's like, if you want to go on America's Got Talent with this group called Acro Army, you can come on it with me and be my partner. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like a small opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm like, yes, please. And so Acro Army was this group that had already performed in a season or competed in a season, but this was going to be for like a Christmas special. So it wasn't actually for the competition. It was like a paid gig to go on the TV show. Mm-hmm. And I said yes. So I met like my first like really like dedicated mentor / coach at Acro Army named Arthur Davis. And Arthur Davis was like a 2-time sports acro world champion, like the best one to come out of the United States. You know what I mean? And he basically like took me under his wing, started teaching me everything. I would basically like at that point I was making really good money finally, and like had clients, really privileged lifestyle at the moment because I finally got my feet on the ground. And I gave it all up because I'm like, I got to get rid of all my clients because I can't, because if I'm training them, I can't be training here. And I went back to like instead of making like $1,500 or $2,000 a week, I was back to making like $200 a week. And I'm just like grinding, hustling. And I'm like, it's worth it. Like money's not going to make me happy, but like being successful at my dream is what I'm after. Mm-hmm. And so I performed with Acro Army in multiple gigs. It really developed me as an acrobat, as a performer, as an artist, everything like that. So I wouldn't have made it where I was without Arthur. And yeah, that was like the first taste of it. And that's the first way that I actually started to become like good at a professional level rather than just as an amateur, just trying to like do tricks, you know?
Yeah. And so this is now we were talking a little bit offline, like you have another opportunity with America's Got Talent coming up. And this is something different than what you just described.
Yeah. So my group called Positive Impact Movement is me and 3 other guys. It's me, Travis Brewer, Nathan Tucci, and Andreas Alfaro. And we have like a 4-man group that we're kind of like the Acro boy band, you know, like everyone's like super friendly, smiley, muscular, good looking, like, you know what I mean? Like talented. Yeah. And we're just like, we auditioned for the show. Can't say how it went because that is against the NDA, but, but very happy with what we put together and how we came together as a team, and everyone's like we all balance each other out in this really good way, you know, like we always talk about how we're like the 4 elements. Like my one buddy, Travis, is air because he's like very floaty and always like head in the clouds. Nathan is water because he's all bendy and liquidy and like knows how to move very well. Andreas is fire because he's Latino, spicy Mexican, and I'm earth because I'm the one that holds everyone and is like glued to the ground and putting 550 pounds of weight on me at the same time and carrying the team on my back. And so we're waiting to hear if we're going through. We don't know yet, but yeah. Nice. Big things coming up potentially, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the pillars that I believe are components of a healthy lifestyle, like a connection to the earth. You know, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. Tons of your videos, you're on Instagram at Acro James, and tons of your videos, you know, you're outside, you're barefoot, you're in the sun, you're lifting 1 to a dozen people above your head. And sometimes they're on like 30-foot stilts and all sorts of things like that. But it's also community and being around other people. And I think we're realizing as humans how important that is. You know, I mentioned I was just down in Sarasota with a doctor buddy, and we were doing a heart opening ceremony on Saturday. And afterwards I was talking with one of the women that was there, and she was like, it's so good to be around other men. Usually I'm just around women and, you know, it's different energy. And I'm like, it's just good to be around people, you know, face to face, no masks, smiling, giving each other hugs, that sort of thing. And lastly, it's like, you know, critical thinking and the ability to kind of live on your terms, decide what you're passionate about, what's your play, you know, where do you love spending time? How do you follow your bliss, and carving out time for that, not just, as you know, as I said, like the indiscriminate pursuit of more money, a bigger house, like this and that. And it seems like from my perspective that you've done a great job in those three areas: nature, community, and, you know, living on your own terms and carving out time for play. Is that something you can speak on a little bit more? Like, what are some of your rules for life that have driven the conscious creation of your reality?
So like, I'll go with some of the points you brought up. Like, community is definitely like the thing that I feel like everyone needs the most. You know, like, humans are social animals, whether it's a small group, a big group, but something to feel like you're a part of, and you're going to directly be like the community you surround yourself with. So for me, community above everything, you know, like, I want to be around people who are chasing their dreams. I want to be around people who celebrate each other's wins. I want to make sure everyone feels included. I want to take people that thought they can never do this thing and bring them into the family and like, be like, no, you're a part of this now. Like, if you bring good intentions and good vibes, like, you're here with us, you know, like, and so that's going to be the one thing, because if you constantly stay inspired and feel like people have your back, like, you can't accomplish big things by yourself. I don't care what people say, you know, if they're like, no, this was all me, it's a lie. 100% of the time, you are around people who believe in you and support you and like sacrifice for you and with you. And like, you need that in your life. The next thing is being outside and being connected to the earth. Like, with me, with like Acro, like, most of the people that are in my industry all grew up in gyms. You know what I mean? Like, with MMA, I grew up in a gym. But Acro is like the thing that I finally took outdoors, and I can be outside for like 8 hours a day in the sun doing Acro with my feet on the grass, my feet in the mud, whatever, man. But like, just being out there in like with your community is the most special thing in the world for me anyway. And the more, like, I feel like it just adds so much to your life, you know, when you're just like, get the sun on your skin, fresh air, around people, hugging people, feeling like that human connection, doing something that almost feels like primal in a way. You know what I mean? It's so important.
Yeah. And so when you went out to California, you were basically starting with no community, and you know, now you've built that. Is that a reflection of putting in those reps, you know, lifting 100 people a day, having all those interactions, and like putting yourself out there where you're not sitting in your house or a van or an apartment, you know, you're at the park meeting people? And is there anything else that contributed to like building a community from nothing?
Well, like, the community had always been there. You know what I mean? Like, the community in Santa Monica has been a thing for decades. It's had its different generations of communities for sure, but like, to go out there on a Sunday, community isn't just like a group of people. Community is people that you start to rely on and trust and build connection with and everything. But like, for me anyway, the green was a place where like, I needed everyone to feel included. I wanted to help pull more people there at the same time, make bigger events there, and just make sure that like, when someone comes on, like, I always have the time of day for people. You know what I mean? First of all, I'm there for like my enjoyment, because like, when I feel inspired and have my cup full, I have more to give back to people. And that's been a lesson over the course of a very long time that I've learned the hard way multiple times. But to like, make sure that when somebody comes there and has the courage to like come up and ask me to do something with them, I make sure I make eye contact, I engage, I talk to them about it, I do the trick with them, I celebrate their victories. And at the same time, if they're like struggling with something, I don't push it off on them and be like, oh, obviously you're not ready for this. It's like, it's more about like, if you stay patient with somebody's process, they're more likely to stay patient with their own process. And at the end of the day, like, I know how intimidating sometimes it was for me to go up to like high level professionals and say like, hey, can I try this thing with you? And for them to say yes and give me that chance, like, that's something that I've wanted to replicate for everyone. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have gotten there without the people that could have said no to me to actually give me the chance and like learn from them and learn like with them. I wouldn't have had that. So like, I want to give that back to everyone. I want to like believe in people. I want to, even if it's just someone saying yes to Acro for the first time, and that's a huge step forward in their life. Like, that's something I want to be a part of, and I want to like encourage.
Heck yeah. Let's talk about that. So for people listening who either have had a desire to get into Acro or are just now starting to get interested in Acro and want to make it a part of like the way that they move their body on a weekly basis, you've done so much and tried so many different things. If you were to sort of condense down and distill it to some of the key practices, stuff that you can do on your own and stuff you can do if you have people that are willing to let you lift them, and any other advice that you have, James, like what can you share with us? And this is a blueprint that I'm personally going to take and start integrating into my routine. So tell us what to do.
Cool, man. That makes me excited. So first thing, the hardest part about Acro is starting. Starting is going to be the hardest thing that you do in the world, because you look at it and you kind of go like, that shit crazy. Like, I'm not going to fucking try. I'm going to fall and get hurt. You're not like taking a measured step forward and just being like, no matter what, I'm just going to give this one try today. I'm going to do something that's safe with somebody that's like encouraging towards me. And once you do that, you're hooked. That's the only thing that you have to do. After that, like, I understand for some people, it's hard to find community and it's hard to find people doing it. So here's a way that I find people all over the world. And it's like my tried and true practice. You're going to go to Facebook. You're going to type in your city with Acro or Acro yoga beside it. If you live in a big city, that's going to be easy to find because there's about an Acro group for everywhere on earth. If you don't find the group, search the next biggest city like closest to you. I guarantee you find one. On that page, you're going to click join. They're probably going to ask you some prerequisite questions like, do you agree that this is like a no hate space and all that kind of the Acro community is pretty consistent with like, hey, you better be here to respect each other and talk to each other kindly and contribute to the community. And you're going to answer all those questions and it's going to be good. And then from there, you can just type, hey, I'm brand new to this. Is there an Acro jam somewhere close to me? And you'll probably get 10 responses. If the community is a little bit like a little offline, if you go to members, you'll see the button that says admin and moderators. There'll be usually a certain amount of people in there that are considered like community leaders, right? They're like people that help put together events. Add one, directly message them, be like, hey, I'm new to this. I would really love the opportunity to try out Acro for the first time. Whether it's a jam or a class they push towards you, whatever way it goes, just try it. You won't regret it. And it's going to be the best thing you do with your life. Trust me, it changed my life. It could change so many people's lives. You're going to get community. You're going to get a way to believe in yourself. You're going to get a way to build better communication, build more trust, build so many key elements about what we seek with other people, what really makes us feel enriched when we hang out with certain types of people. That's what the Acro community embodies, but we're doing it in a way of just doing Acro, right? But Acro isn't the thing we're learning. We're learning all these other things that maybe Acro is just the gateway to them. And so, yeah.
I dig it. So basically, just get on Facebook, search Your City plus Acro or Your City plus Acro Yoga, which is a term you're not a huge fan of, but it's vernacular that people are using. Join those, reach out to some of the moderators, and just find out where the Acro gym is closest to you and go. That's the best piece of advice for getting started. It's not like doing bridges or some sort of exercise in your house by yourself. It's find a gym and get your butt to the gym.
Yeah, because you can be the most in shape person in the world and you can think that you can keep needing to get stronger. But the person who has a tenth of your athletic ability or flexibility or strength that just decided to go to the jam or the class is now ahead of you. You know what I mean? And that's all you need to do for your first time. As long as you show up with positive intentions, look to be respectful, being intentional with how you're putting your hands on people, because a lot of the only thing that gets wiped out from the community are creeps. A community can immediately identify a creep and will get rid of the creep. And I will gladly be someone who gets rid of the creep to protect my community.
How do you identify a creep? What are some of the telltale signs of a creep?
Someone who doesn't understand how to take no for an answer, right?
Okay.
Always pushing, putting hands on people in weird, unwanted ways. Someone who is looking to achieve something else from their Acro practice, whether it's usually getting in contact with females in the community and want to use that as a different way to meet people like as a date, like that's a creep. Like if you go to these things with the intention of being like part of the community, to contribute to the environment, like the positive environment, to like be there to learn, that's going to be something that's going to get you infinitely further than going there and just like being a fucking creep, you know, like don't be a creep.
Yeah, man. It's one of the philosophies that I try to live by, and that a friend said to me probably a decade plus ago was like, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And like just being aware of like the emotional and energetic impact that you're having on people, and steering that towards the positive always, and like being aware, like even if you're not intentionally doing something that is bad or to make someone uncomfortable, if you're making someone uncomfortable, respect that. You know what I mean? And like whatever. Okay, so that's great. Last couple of questions, because this is awesome, and I got to get on Facebook and find one of these Acro gyms near me. Let's talk a little bit about your van, man, because the doc buddy of mine that I was down in Florida visiting, like we were chatting about this, and I've got a Jeep, and for a while, like, you know, I thought I wanted to get a sports car or something like that, but like we're moving to the mountains, North Carolina, and I'm like, what makes a lot more sense is getting a van and tricking it out so I could live in that and kind of travel, and that be my way to get around the US and maybe Mexico and Canada and stuff. So what have you got going on there? How'd you build it? You know, what advice do you have for people that have been looking to transition into van life?
So this is my Ford Transit 350. It used to be a passenger van. So there's 15 seats in here before. Now there's 3. There's 2 in the front and 1 right here. So I can fit an extra person just in case going across borders and someone needs a seat belt or something. I completely gutted it out. I built everything in it. So there's electricity because I have solar panels. There's a fridge. There's a stove. There's running water. There's places to sleep, closet, dressers, storage space. There's a roof rack on top because one of my favorite things to do is sit on my roof and watch the sunset, whether it's at the beach or in the mountains. But yeah, man, it's been my ultimate path to freedom, because in Los Angeles, I don't know if you've heard, rent prices are fucking horrendous. So
even with a bunch of people fleeing California, they're still high.
Yeah. So like with this, it became like a way for me to like not work so much to afford rent. It was just like I paid for it with cash, and like kind of like really decked it out myself. But you don't need like a fancy van. You just get something small, make it like something that you feel comfortable in. Honestly, have you ever been to like a capsule hotel in Japan?
So I've been to Japan, but never a capsule hotel.
So a capsule hotel kind of feels like you know what a honeycomb looks like? Yeah. With like the little slots that go in. So instead of paying something ridiculous in Japan, like say like $100 a night, you can go and pay $20 a night for a capsule hotel. Okay. And it kind of feels like you're in this like nice, like comfy cocoon. And that's kind of like what this feels like. Sure, there's times where you're like, I could use a little bit more room, but the outside is right there. You know? Yeah. And so and having a smaller space probably encourages you to spend a lot more time outside. Oh, so much more time. Like anytime you just want to get out and do something, you can. Yeah. So like for me, I park wherever I want to be in the morning. Right. Mm-hmm. So I wake up there in the morning. So normally I'm parking near the beach. So I wake up, first thing I do is walk down to like the beach, get my feet in the sand. Like maybe if I'm feeling it, if it's not too cold out, like get in the water. And it's just like one of those things that like whatever environment you really think is going to make your day better, you can start it there because you could just wake up there in the morning and then you're more inclined to like, because, you know, like, for example, like working out, a lot of people like don't need to work out. They just need to get in the fucking car to go to the gym. That could just be the only goal. You know what I mean? Get in your car to go to because once you're in the car, you're most likely not to turn around to go back home. You know what I mean? You're most likely just to get to the gym. Yeah. And like, so like that could be the goal for this. It's like, if I want to be in nature or if I want to be by the beach or if I want to work out in the morning, I park in front of my gym. I wake up in the morning and then like, it's very hard to say no to the gym when you can literally see it out your window, you know? So, yeah, for sure. Last couple questions. I mean, I've also had periods of depression in my life. Like we've got a long and illustrious history of paternal treatment resistant depression in our family. And
I've noticed some patterns in myself, things that contribute to it and things that I typically need more of in my life if I'm experiencing it. And I was curious, like if you've noticed some of those same patterns, and when you do have periods where, whether you want to call it depression or just feeling a little bit lower than you typically are vibe wise, what shifts do you make in your life? What do you do more of or less of, or?
I've always thought staying inspired is the best way to pull yourself out of depression, because for me, the times that I've been the most depressed in my life is where I feel like I have nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the result of depression or what's causing depression. I don't know. But to just like feel like, try to find something that you start to kind of feel excited to wake up to in the morning is going to be one of the things that, because like when you're depressed, like it's hard to get out of bed. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard to want to like drink a cup of water in the morning. It's hard to like want to eat somewhat healthy. It's hard to like want to go see people and like interact a little bit. But if you feel like you have found something that makes you excited and makes you want to take that chance on yourself, it's going to help you get quite a bit further, like, and the best way I can like say, like, because maybe it's not Acro that does it, maybe it's working out, but like try to find something by trying so many things. Give yourself the permission just to try things, because like if you don't try the thing that might pull you out of it, you're going to stay depressed for a very long time. So even if it's just giving yourself the permission to try something new in hopes that it might turn into something else, and it like trying one thing that makes no sense to you might be the gateway that leads to something else to make you try that other thing that might lead to something else, and it's just like saying yes to an opportunity, for me anyway, has been the way that I've really been able to get out of depression.
Totally, man. It's that shift from like the energy of no, the energy of inaction to, like you said, the energy of yes, and trying some things that could help. Even if you got to try 10 to find one that makes a difference, it's like being in that yes energy, that movement, that action. It's much more conducive to positivity than depression.
And like what you said there, like when you're like, don't try one thing, try 10 things. I think that's the most important thing, is not trying to figure out the perfect thing to try. Because if you try to sit there and overthink yourself to death, trying to figure out that one thing to try, you will never fucking try anything. Like there needs to be like 100 things. Try 100 things, no matter how obscure or weird or like kind of like dumb they seem. Like that one thing might lead to a different thing that leads to the thing, like
try for sure. Yeah, for sure. And it's like you hear a lot the cliche phrase, like you got to spend money to make money. A lot of times, like when you're depressed, you're tired, maybe your body hurts or whatever, but you're tired anyway. Put some energy out there. And a lot of times, like that energy expenditure can also contribute to energy creation and like a shift in mood. Beautiful. Tell us a little bit about some of the courses and events and seminars and things that you offer for people that, we were chatting. I may want to come out there and do some stuff next time you have an event. And for people listening that want to get more involved and that are going to take this episode, get involved with an Acro gym near them, and then they want to take it to the next level, how can they work with you? And what are some cool things that you've got going on?
So a good way to find out what's going on in my Acro career, and like most of it's teaching, because teaching's like my biggest passion. Just got to follow me on Instagram, Acro James. It's easy. I post about my events all the time. I'm all over the world, so like, I don't know when the world is going to open up, but through the United States, it seems pretty easy to travel around at the moment and teach. I normally hold like standing Acro classes that are considered all levels. So whether you're just beginning, whether you've done it a little bit, whether you're experienced, you'll find a lot of very beneficial things in it, because I focus on creativity and flow and accessibility rather than really hard skills. Like high reward, low risk is always kind of like the goal with the classes. Because at the end of the day, if someone comes to Acro for the first time and doesn't feel successful, they're most likely not to try it again. You know what I mean? So the goal is to create success in the class. So my next set of classes are this weekend. I have an advanced dance lift class and an all levels dance lift class that are in Santa Monica, Saturday and Sunday. After that, I'll be holding quite a bit of events throughout the country. But again, feel free to message me online. I respond to 100% of the messages sent to me, unless if they're super weird, because sometimes they're weird. But just have to follow me, and there's lots of events coming up.
Nice. And then anything that you can share about your upcoming appearance on AGT or how people can support you? Is the best way to do that just kind of stay tuned through Instagram?
Well, hopefully, we don't even know yet, but if they decide to premiere our act or like put it on TV, it will be between June and July. We don't even know which date is, but they tell us a week before. So I'll be able to push all like the promotional material to tell you when and where to exactly find it. So yeah, I'm super excited for that, because we don't even know what we look like on stage. You know, we haven't even seen it. Like we lived it, but we don't know what it looks like. So
heck yeah.
I'm probably going to even do like a live like watch party on my phone, just so if you wanted to watch it with me and you didn't have access to a TV, all you got to do is click the button on my Instagram.
Nice. Good stuff, guys. Follow James at Acro James on Instagram. Go to Facebook, type in Your City plus Acro or Your City plus Acro Yoga. Get involved and get a workout in, connect with a community of other like-minded people who are passionate about this stuff. James, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your wisdom, and keep doing what you're doing, brother. It's inspiring people like me and a lot more who've listened to this episode. Thank you.
Great talking to you. Really refreshing to hear so much positivity.
Thanks, bro.
Cheers.